The performance day was more crowded than usual. The auditorium was packed, and the backstage corridors were bustling with people rushing around. I was busy carrying set panels and checking the placement of equipment that would go on stage. I had nothing to do with the audience. For me, the real work started when the curtain fell, and it began again after it closed. After the play ended, the hall quickly emptied. The actors retreated to the wings, and the audience hurried toward the exits. I stepped onto the stage, picking up props and pushing chairs aside. My friends were moving materials to the storage, and I stayed a bit behind. It seemed like any other day, but a strange unease was stirring inside me. Some of the lights had already been turned off, with only 2 spotlights above the stage still on. The dimness made the shadows more pronounced. I walked down the dark backstage corridor to take the set pieces to storage. No one was supposed to be there, yet footsteps echoed. I couldn't tell if they were mine or someone else's. I paused for a moment. Maybe one of the crew is running late, I thought. But when I looked down the corridor, there was no one. Only worn curtains, slightly open doors, and the shadows on the walls seemed to be watching me. I didn't linger and carried the panels back. When I stepped into the hall, no one else was in sight. I was alone backstage. My friends had gone to the storage, and the others had left the building long ago. At first, the silence felt normal, but there was an unsettling tension beyond the usual routine. As I walked through the dark corridor with panels in hand, the spotlights flickered, and the shadows seemed to shift, as if moving on their own. I felt a touch of gentle nudge on my shoulder. I spun around, but no one was there. The curtain swayed slightly, and the stage lights flickered. My heart raced, and my breath caught. "You're imagining it," I whispered, yet an oppressive feeling pressed down on me. As I walked further, a low hum began to rise. I thought it was the wind, but the sound moved through the theater, as if an invisible audience was breathing around me. Something brushed past me again. My shoulder was nudged lightly once more. I couldn't bring myself to look back. When I reached the center of the stage, the spotlights went out, leaving only the emergency lights on. Shadows thickened, and the empty seats felt filled with unseen observers. The curtain flickered open and then shut. My heart pounded wildly. Metal props slid across the floor on their own. Chairs creaked. There was no one there. My breath grew shallow as I stepped back, panels in hand. Every step echoed in the corridor, hinting at someone or something following me. I moved toward the storage door. It was slightly ajar, opening and closing as if guided by an invisible hand. My heart felt like it would burst. The curtain fluttered again. Lights flickered on and off. It was as if an unseen production was being staged just for me. A whisper reached me, "We're here." I looked around without blinking, but no one was visible. I touched a panel. All I felt was wood and metal. The shadows twisted together, seeming to approach me like a living presence. One of the stage lights flickered. Its rhythm matched my heartbeat. Every step felt heavier, as if time itself was stretching. A faint clatter came from the corner of the storage box, sliding across the floor, or so it seemed. Panic clawed at me. The spotlights went out completely. In the darkness, applause erupted from an invisible audience. I forced myself to remain still, but my heart kept pounding. A shadow appeared at the end of the panels, then vanished instantly. Footsteps echoed another step alongside mine. I spun around. The corridor was empty. I touched a panel and felt a subtle vibration. I stepped toward the center of the stage again. The shadows in the seats seemed to stare, and the low hum swelled once more. The curtain swayed. Doors were closed. There was no wind. My shoulder was nudged with a cold breath. With every step, the hum changed, mixing with applause and whispers. Panic surged. I headed for the door. Lights flickered. Shadows danced. The dark backstage seemed to trap me. All the lights blinked once. The hall fell silent. The hum and applause vanished, but my heart still pounded. Just as I was about to collapse to the floor, hands grabbed me. Opening my eyes, my crew stood there, looking at me with concern. They asked what had happened. I was soaked in sweat, and I told them everything. They shook their heads. "You've only been alone for 10 minutes, they said. The lights didn't go out, and there were no sounds. You imagined it. No matter how much I insisted, they didn't believe me. Some even exchanged amused glances. "Rest for a moment," they said, leading me to the small backstage break room. They set me in a chair. "Sit and calm down. We have work to do, preparing for the next show," they said, leaving me there. When the door clicked shut, the silence became heavy. For a moment, I felt some calm. My heartbeat slowed. But as I drew a deep breath, the lights flickered. A strange clatter came from the corner, like an empty metal box rolling across the floor. I stared, but there was nothing there. I stood up and headed for the door. Just then, I felt breath at my ear and a sharp nudge on my shoulder. Panicked, I opened the door and stepped into the corridor. The friends who had been nearby minutes ago were nowhere. The corridor was completely empty. No sounds, no footprints. The doors were all locked. The people who had been preparing and moving equipment moments before had vanished. I was utterly alone. I walked toward the stage. The hall was dim again. Lights flickered on their own. Shadows seemed to occupy the seats, watching me. The low hum rose again, louder this time. Applause filled the empty theater. My chest felt ready to burst. I had no choice but to flee. I ran to the nearest door, kicking it open. It gave way, and I bolted outside. The cool night air hit my face, filling my lungs and reminding me I was real. Even as I left the building, the invisible applause and hum continued behind me. It never stopped. Even under the street lamps, I could hear it. The dark theater had imprinted itself inside me. After that night, I never stepped onto the stage alone again. No matter how much I tried to explain, no one believed me. To them, a few minutes of being alone had played a trick on me. But I knew the stage held an invisible audience, and they were still watching.